There's nothing like homegrown veggies to help you eat well, stay healthy and save a bit of money. A raised garden bed is a great place to grow them, and building one is easy as. Now there's a couple of things to think about when choosing the right location for your planter box. You'll need a level spot that gets at least 5 hours of sunlight each day. Think about building it close to your kitchen so your fresh food is within easy reach. To get started, the first thing you need to decide is what type of materials you're going to use. Today I'll be using Mitre sleepers to build my planter box, but there are a few other options. On the top here I've got a 150 by 50 tongue and groove option, which is really nice and easy to use because you just slot these together. This also comes from 150 right up to 200 millimeters wide. Then we have our rough sawn retaining board timber, which goes from 150 right up to 300 millimeters wide. Both these two options are great, but they are tannalized and you will need to line the inside of your planter box, but they're a lot lighter than the thicker sleeper material, which is on the bottom here, which is a Mitre sleeper. The only difference is this is organically treated. To begin, prep the area and make sure that your base is nice and flat, and you want to double check that it's nice and level as well. So if you've got grass there, you might want to take that grass out and dig down about 50 millimeters to bare dirt. The next step is to measure your area. I'm making my planter box 1.8 meters by 900 millimeters. It's a handy size because it allows us to reach the plants in the middle of the garden. I'm just about ready to start cutting my timber, and you know what? I'm going to do it the old-fashioned way, using a handsaw. So a couple of little tips with a handsaw. Nowadays we've actually got a 90 degrees on the saw here, so I can use the edge of my blade to sit against the timber and we get a nice straight line. Alternatively, you've also got a 45 degree along here as well. So I'm just going to put the handle on our piece of Mackie, set that up against my line, and that'll give me a nice 90 degrees. And down the front. Now when you're using a handsaw, common grip is called the 3-1-1. 3 fingers inside your handle, 1 sticking out, and your thumb obviously in behind. So when you're using your handsaw, just draw back nice and slow, 3 nice cuts to establish the saw. And you want to be looking straight down the line of the saw, and you want to eye up the bottom mark and your mark on the top of your timber as well. And just start off nice and slow, not forcing the saw and using the full length of the blade, not just a little bit in the middle. Using smooth strokes, cut your timber to size, squaring off the ends, then use an electric planer or block plane to finish off the rough edges. Now I'm just about to pre-drill the holes for our 150 millimeter long landscape screw. Now most of the time you probably wouldn't need to pre-drill, but because we're close to the ends, part of the course I always pre-drill just in case the timber splits. Now we don't need to drill into the timber we're going into, just the first piece of timber here. So what I've got is a 6mm drill bit, and we'll just go all the way through. So on each corner, measure 50mm from the edge and drill a pilot hole. Now I've just laid all my timber out in the garden, ready to screw it all together. Now if I had slightly lighter timber, a lighter gauge, I could probably screw it all together on my sawhorses and bring it in place, but this stuff's pretty heavy, so I'm laying it out piece by piece, and I'm attaching it with my 150mm Otter landscape screws. Butt the sleepers up against the pre-drilled holes, screw them in place, and do the same on the other side. Just before I put my second layer on, what I'm going to do is just measure my diagonals. That's from corner to corner on both sides. So what we're looking for is exactly the same dimension. So if one side is slightly longer than the other, then you may need to peg one side and then just tap it this side just to squash it up till you get exactly the same dimension. And I'll also make sure it's sitting nice and level. Now I'm just going to peg the corners and start fixing this in place. So what I'm using here is this steel Waratah, and I'm going to fix those in the corners. And the reason I'm using this is going to last a long time, and it's not using tannalized timber within our garden. Drive the pegs in so they sit approximately 50mm below the top of the second layer of sleepers. Then fix them in place using bugle screws. Okay, I'm just about to put my last section of Mitre sleepers in. Now I've already pre-drilled through the back into this because obviously my fence is in the way. So as you can see, I've slightly staggered the join. Now that's just a personal thing. You could have your timber coming all the way straight, or you could have it staggered like this, whatever suits. But just a slight point of difference. So I'll slide that down and fix them in place. And finally, I'll secure the top layer to the corner pegs. If you are using other materials for your planter box, like the retaining timber or the tongue and groove, you can follow the same method, no problem at all. Right, all we have to do is put in our garden mix and plant our veggies. Fill your bed up to 50 millimetres from the top and smooth it out. It's also a good idea to add a trellis for climbing veggies to grow up. Work out what veggies you want and plant them according to the instructions they come with. If you need any help deciding, head in store. They've got all the advice you need and loads of veggie options. You can also check out our seasonal growing guides, which will tell you what kind of veggies to plant at what time of the year. Now just sit back and wait for them to grow, and you'll be enjoying fresh and healthy homegrown veggies in no time at all. Don't forget to subscribe to the Mitre 10 YouTube channel for more handy content, or click here to watch more now.